So, welcome back to the deep dive. We often get asked to explore, the really fundamental structures of our experience, those deep universal truths that kind of govern our inner lives. And
hmm
today we're taking a deep dive into material that explores a question that feels as old as consciousness itself.
And that question is,
How did desire, which apparently started as this pure engine of creation, how did it ultimately become, the main source of our suffering?
it's a really compelling journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right into the mechanics of the mind. And the sources we're looking at, they view the genesis of attachment not as some psychological flaw, but as a subtle, almost cosmological unfolding.
Like a universal law.
Exactly, a movement from a state of pure longing to eventually a state of blindage.
So our mission really is to get into the mechanics of that change. We're looking at these very early stages of creation and trying to examine this fundamental shift in awareness. We want to answer that core question the sources seem to pose. Did the act of desiring itself destroy awareness, or was it something about how that desire was, how it was handled?
And to understand that fall, I think we first have to appreciate the ascent. We have to go back to the very, very beginning.
To when desire first emerged?
Yes, when desire first emerged in
Yeah.
this nascent universe. And the texts are incredibly clear on this point. This was not the grasping, needy feeling that we often associate with desire today.
That's such a key distinction. The original state of desire is described as something entirely positive.
Entirely.
It was born, they say, purely from curiosity, just a longing to experience, to explore, to expand existence itself.
It was gentle. The
Yeah.
sources use that word, gentle, and intrinsically a movement toward life itself.
The impulse that caused the formless to seek form.
That's the perfect way to put it. It was this necessary drive for knowledge, for novelty. I mean, think about it. If there was no desire to move or to know or connect,
Creation would have just stagnated.
it would have just stayed in this single, undifferentiated state. So this desire, it served the function of pure exploration. It was expansive, open, and, fundamentally innocent. It was only seeking the experience of unfolding.
Okay, so if this original curiosity was so pure, so essential, where was the turning point? Where did this incredible engine of expansion start to, I guess, put on the brakes and trap this new consciousness?
Well, the material insists that this wasn't some big catastrophic event. It was quiet, often missed.
Something subtle.
Very. The transformation was achieved not through some sudden violence, but simply through repetition.
Repetition.
Yes, the critical mechanism was that as that initial gentle desire repeated itself, the awareness that came with it,
hmm
it began a slow, gradual weakening.
That feels very relatable. The process became automatic. You can
Yeah.
see it in modern life, right? We lose our presence in behaviors we repeat all the time,
Like what?
like endlessly checking your phone, or
Mhm.
even just a work task you do every single day. The initial intention,
Mm.
it just fades. Only the movement is left.
Exactly. The mind just goes on autopilot. The first time you experience something, you are completely present. But the moment you seek to replicate that experience,
The focus shifts.
the focus shifts. You're no longer watching the sunrise. You're just anticipating the feeling the sunrise gave you yesterday. And that lack of active awareness, well, it allowed for a fundamental substitution to take root.
Which brings us right to that shift in focus, this
Yeah.
this crucial substitution. The former state of consciousness was defined by presence, right? Just being in the moment as it unfolds.
Mhm.
So what replaced it? What took the place of presence?
It was replaced by this deep tendency to cling to outcomes. Consciousness just stopped being satisfied with the experience itself. It began to fixate on securing the result.
Or making sure the feeling could be perfectly replicated later on.
Precisely.
So the joy was no longer in the running of the race, but only in securing the trophy at the end. But wait a minute, isn't planning for the future or working towards a goal, isn't that just a prudent thing to do? So where does the source material draw that line between, say, healthy ambition and this harmful clinging?
That is the critical question. And the answer is that the presence of awareness makes all the difference. Prudent action is aware of the outcome, sure, but it focuses its energy on the quality of the present step.
I see.
But clinging or attachment,
Yeah.
that means the present step is devalued. It's
Yeah.
just an irritating hurdle standing between you and the outcome you want.
So the text summarizes substitution with a very powerful phrase you mentioned earlier.
They do. Possession replaced presence. We stopped being in the moment, and we started being obsessed with securing the result of the moment.
And this shift, this this hardening of a pure, flowing curiosity into something rigid, something static. That's what the texts call the birth of attachment.
That's it, precisely. Attachment is just desire that has lost its awareness,
Yeah.
and now it only seeks security. It wants to lock down the outcome to, freeze the river of experience.
It's no longer seeking expansion into the unknown.
No, it's seeking safety in the known.
And this is where the narrative becomes, well, truly profound, because the moment this desire hardens into attachment, suffering becomes the inevitable result.
It's the unavoidable consequence, and the sources, they detail the specific forms this suffering took, highlighting this deep philosophical paradox.
The most obvious form of suffering is pain from loss, right?
Right. You become attached to an outcome, and that outcome, just by the nature of creation, it inevitably changes or fades or disappears. That loss naturally generates pain, the ache of separation.
But the real paradox is that suffering emerged even when the desired outcome was achieved. Even in fulfillment, the being still suffered.
Yes, fulfillment. In this new state of attachment, it didn't generate joy, it generated fear.
The fear of future loss.
The ultimate irony, you now have the thing you clung to, a reputation, some wealth, a relationship, and all your awareness is now dedicated not to enjoying it, but to just maintaining that possession against the inevitable flow of time.
And the effort it takes to maintain that possession can be more exhausting, more awareness draining than the effort it took to get it in the first place.
That's a great point. You're trading the openness of curiosity for the exhausting vigilance of ownership.
Look at our digital identities today. Achieving a certain status, a number of followers, a perfect online image, that's an outcome. But the attachment that comes after requires this constant maintenance, this constant anxiety over a potential dip in the numbers or a public mistake.
Exactly that. Desire, which began as this force for liberation, for expansion, now it just serves to bind the self to a static, vulnerable point of security.
It's such a tragic turn for consciousness. This pursuit of security creates relentless insecurity. And this realization, it leads us to the ultimate synthesis of this cosmic mechanism, an insight that's sometimes attributed to Brahma, the observer of creation.
Right. Brahma is said to have observed this whole mechanism unfolding, and in that observation came the clarity that, the original thinkers were looking for.
And what was that clarity?
It became evident that consciousness had misidentified the true antagonist. Desire itself was observed not to be the villain.
He was the spark of life.
It was the fundamental spark of life and growth. The issue wasn't the feeling of wanting, but the non-presence when the wanting happened.
So the true source of suffering was identified so clearly, losing awareness within desire.
That was it. The tragedy was not that we desired, but that we let our desire run unsupervised.
And this clarity, it allowed for the articulation of these fundamental principles, right? For how to navigate the relationship between desire and awareness.
Yes, and these principles are as relevant for someone navigating, say, a job promotion as they are for understanding the structure of the cosmos.
So the first principle is simple and direct.
Very. Desire without awareness always leads to attachment. If you desire a promotion, but you only think about the title and the money, and not the skills you're building or the process, you're already creating the conditions for attachment. The focus is misplaced.
And the second principle describes the consequence of that.
Exactly. Attachment then turns the opportunity of experience into bondage. The experience of your work, it just becomes a precursor to a potential future loss. The loss of the title, the loss of the income, the value of the moment is completely inverted.
It's no longer about growth. It's about security.
It's all about security.
Which brings us to the third principle, which is maybe the most hopeful one.
It is. Awareness holds the transformative power. It's the necessary solvent. When awareness is present, it converts desire back into pure growth, and by doing that, it prevents suffering.
It turns curiosity back into exploration, not obsession.
Yes. If you are actively present while you're pursuing a goal, experiencing the complexity of the process, rather than just obsessing over the final number, you prevent that desire from solidifying into attachment. You move with the flow of life, rather than trying to hold it still. It's a profoundly practical realization.
What a powerful distinction. The sources then lead us to a final, profound observation on the nature of suffering itself. After attachment became widespread, after suffering became common, something unexpected happened.
Yes. The pain of being bound, it actually pushed consciousness toward a deeper understanding of its own mechanisms.
So suffering wasn't just an end state.
No, not at all. It was the very force that began to shape and refine consciousness. The tension of being bound was actually necessary to provoke the search for liberation.
So the very thing that collapsed awareness in the first place, the pain of attachment and loss, that became the force that compelled the emergence of a higher, stronger form of awareness.
It suggests a continuing cycle of refinement, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A kind of cosmic furnace where awareness is tempered by
It
experience,
began with innocent curiosity.
moved into the rigidity of attachment and its resulting pain.
And now, through the pressure of that pain, the path toward true freedom is revealed.
A freedom in desire, not from it.
Which I think leaves us with a really potent final thought for you to consider. If suffering is this shaping force, this engine of evolution that demands a deeper quality of awareness, then what new forms of presence, what new kinds of understanding might be born only through the experience of release from attachment? It's a question to ponder as you navigate your own journey of desires and outcomes.